So, good morning, everyone. This morning, we're all about that vision, voice, values, and how all that actually slots into branding. And we have an amazing speaker with us this morning, Nicola Rylett Jones, very highly esteemed out there. And it's almost like when people are talking about anything to do with the Institute of Management and Leadership, vision, and working with corporate companies, Nicola's name usually pops up in the conversation. So I feel really honoured that we have Nicola this morning delivering for us a masterclass on this. So before we make a start, I thought it'd be really exciting for us to understand. We have an audience that has joined us this morning, a small, perfectly formed audience, and it'd be really good for us to understand, well, what is it that you'd like to get out of this morning's session with Nicola? So I'm going to start with you, Steffi. So what would you like to get out of this session with Nicola this morning?
I'm just really intrigued, to be honest, to see, to hear and listen and observe of what she's got to tell us. And yeah, I'm curious by nature. So getting out of this session for me is probably what can I do with it afterwards.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So good morning, Louise. What would you like to get out of this session this morning with Nicola?
Hi, Nicola. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So, good. Yes, so what I would like, I have a 20-year-old therapy business. So I'm a healer and a homeopath. And I really struggle with my branding. I've had about 4 different logos over the years. Um, I don't know how to speak to my audience because my audience is so broad. So in terms of the patients I see, I don't have a niche in there, although I have recently been doing some stuff with menopause and women's health, but it's as broad as it's long. So I find that my logo, I go through phases of thinking my logo has to represent what I do, but then it looks too cliched and I don't want to be cliched. Even in terms of color, I think, well, should they be relaxing when I'm vibrant? So the whole thing really for me, I'm just here to learn and absorb like a sponge. Can't wait.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Louise. And Lisa, good morning. What would you like to get out of this session?
I think for me, I've always just kind of run my business as me, and I need to think of it as a company. I rebranded my business last year from website Wonder Woman because it was just about me, to Wonderful World of Websites, so I can offer more services, not just like creating websites and stuff like that. But I feel that even though I've had my branding done and I try and make tech fun and more interesting, but I don't see that comes across a lot in my branding and things like that. I don't really have, I feel like I got a logo, but nothing else, if that makes sense. So just here to learn.
And coming to you, Lynn, with the last will and testament behind you, what would you like to get out of this morning's session?
A bit like Steffi, really. I'm not really sure. I'm just here to learn. I have heard good things about Nicola, and on your write-up, it was like, oh, yeah, let's jump on this and see exactly what I can take from Nicola and put into my business. I'm not very good on branding. I haven't really got a brand as such. So, yeah, knowing how possibly something so boring as wills and trusts could be put out there for people, really. So just here to listen to everybody and take some views on board.
Okay, great, thank you. And we're going to go to Bano. So Bano, what would you like to get out of this morning's session?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Also branding. I would like to learn more about branding and how to also the logo, because I created everything in my website and my work from scratch myself. So I would like to have more like ideas about how to get more organized, because I'm not that very well organized in branding and so on. So I would like, yeah, to learn more about it and to discover more.
That's lovely, thank you. And Mel,
Thank
what would
you.
you like to get out of this session?
I think, like I said, I'm working more on my local branding than on the overarching branding, which is a UK-wide brand. So it's just listening to what's being said, how people are viewing things, and really then trying to understand what I can do locally to elevate my part of Inside Six, really, which is the South Wales arm.
That's lovely. So thank you very much, everyone. So we're going to come to you now, Nicola, and to introduce you, we're going to give you a big round of applause first. Welcome to the stage, Nicola. Thank you. And perhaps you'd like to share with us a little bit about your background and cover off some of the topics we'd like to explore this morning.
Yes, thank you, and lovely to meet you all. Thank you ever so much for inviting me today. Right, okay, let's start with me. So I'm Nicola Rylett Jones, and I'm the founder and the owner of the Nicola Rylett Group, which you might think is quite egotistical to have my name in my company. I mean, so a couple of people have said it's not about me or it is about me, but actually the reason it's called the Nicola Rylett Group is, first of all, we are a group, and secondly, if you put the initials together, it spells energy. And energy is what we inject into businesses to help them grow. So talk about being authentic and talk about branding. That's a really interesting point that we'll keep coming back to over time. So I tend to explain that to people. And if you have met before, Mel and others, I think I've met Lisa before, Mel and a few of us met before, you'll know that that's what I'm all about. I'm all about energy and action and doing and excitement and motivation, really. And that's what I try to do when I work with our corporates, and we have a number of different programs we use, but we're basically helping individuals within those organizations and the business owners become so much more aligned that they can do more and they feel more motivated, they get more progression, they then continue to have this sort of knock-on effect, the compound interest effect of doing more and more and more. So that's what we work with people on, and we don't tend to do that through alignment, action, accountability, and then achievement. We take people through a process that helps them with that. So that's what we do generally. And because we're talking about alignment, we always start right back at the beginning, which I'm going to take us on a bit of a journey. Hopefully this will help you today with that alignment. And the alignment comes in effect, if you think about it, knowing yourself and knowing your business, and then making that into a brand. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about knowing yourself. And that's everything from your own values, your own behaviors, what you like, what you don't like, how you behave when you're working, why, you know, I'll go through that in a second. Linking that then to what does that mean to the business, particularly as solo entrepreneurs, as founders. The business is us often, you know, as Mel was saying, you know, she wants people to understand who she is. You know, she's working with a franchise, but she also, it's important. So understanding ourselves and portraying that in the right way is important. And then how that links into the business and what that means for our customers. You know, Mel can tell us lots of things about customers, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about what that means for customers and why, as a business, our brand might be suffering because we're not thinking of our customers enough. I mean, Mel's probably doing this at this moment in time, going, everybody doesn't think about the customers enough, you know. So one of my recommendations at that point will be, when we think about the business, yes, we think about what we bring to the business and what our business solves, what problems our business solve, but actually the most important bit is think about it from a customer point of view. And then how you can link all those things together through asking yourself some questions to the brand of the organization. And what brand is, I'll just do a bit of, seems like maybe do a bit of brand 101 and see what brand is all about. Because as you're probably gathering, a couple of people have said that a few issues with logos and whatever. The brand is not the logo. The logo is a representation of your brand. And people start with the logo, but forget about lots of other things like how you behave, what's your tone of voice, where you sit, how you come to the market. All those kind of things are related to brand. Is that helpful for everybody? Is everybody going to be happy if we take those three sort of areas? Okay, so excuse me. So knowing yourself. Okay, so do you really understand who you are? Simon Sinek said that businesses need to think about three things, and the most important thing is the why. Why are you in business? What is it about the thing that you do, the thing that you're passionate about? Why is this so important to you? And often we don't think about those things in that way, because we think about the why as in, well, I provide services in this way, or I am doing this, but then we don't link that to our why. So I like to say to people, okay, tell me why you set up in business. Oh, well, I want to make some money. No. Tell me ways that you can make lots of money in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be setting up your own business. You can go work for somebody and make some money. So what is it about setting up a business that you wanted to do? So that self-awareness to link business and your passion together, when they become completely aligned, it's a tick in the box. But that takes a little bit of thinking. Has anybody struggled with that? Anybody had any sort of revelations with that? Anybody can think of, do you want to ask me any questions around that? But first of all, understand your why. And it often takes a bit of digging to get to the real root issue of why. You know, as I said, I've got lots of clients I'd ask that question to, and they'll turn around and say, well, we ought to make money, or I want to provide jobs for people in the local area. Okay, there's a difference there. Tell me about the making money bit, and tell me about providing the jobs. What is it about providing jobs? Why is that important to you? Why is that going to drive you? Because the driver might be more about the local community and bringing the local community up than it might be just about giving jobs to people. So it's really getting to the essence of that sort of that why, that purpose. It's a really great book called Why by Simon Sinek, if you're interested in reading more about that. Once you've got that purpose, what about your passion? So you might have a purpose, but your expertise and your experience and your background will give you a sort of a really unique fingerprint that none of us on this call today are the same. We might have gone to the same school, but had different experiences. We might have had different jobs. So what are the unique things that have happened to you, that the skills that you have had that make you see this area as a real passion? So if you think about that in terms of supermarkets, Aldi and Waitrose have the same passion, which is feeding the nation, but they do it in two very different ways because they're coming from different positions. They've got different whys. So again, linking that together, you could ask yourself, okay, what's my unique fingerprint? What my unique experiences that give me this take on what my passion is? And all these things, we're trying to become authentic. We're trying to become the best version of yourself you can be, and doing that by knowing yourself and having respect for yourself. So there's a whole piece, I won't go into it now, but there's a whole piece around, you know, understanding that you are good enough to do what you do. I've just done a lot of work on imposter syndrome myself. I've had it for quite some time, not seriously imposter syndrome, but I've been moving towards having more imposter syndrome the more I work on my business, and it's been holding me back a little bit. So I've been focusing on the things that I am good at, my experiences, my skills, not just that I worked in this place or I worked in that place, but actually I'm really good at listening, active listening, or I'm really good at questioning, or I'm really good at explaining concepts, or really down to that kind of granular detail. So, and that's important, and respecting yourself, respecting that expertise, and respecting how you approach things is, again, important to know yourself. So lots of things you can ask, but the first thing we have to think about is who we are, why we do what we do, how we do what we do, and what it is that we're really good at. So that's where I'd start. And I'd consider those things, and I'd start thinking about those things. And what you're wanting to do is build a set of values. So as small business leaders, do you have a set of values? Now, we talk about big corporates having values. Did you know there are 4 types of values in this process? So the first is core value, accidental, aspiration, and permission to play. So when I say to people, can you tell me your values? Often people will say teamwork, integrity, respect, fairness. And I go, okay, brilliant. They are permissions to play. We wouldn't want to do business with people that weren't fair, weren't just, weren't respectful, didn't have integrity, would we? We wouldn't want to do business with those people. So in effect, that's the sort of the entry point to being in business. It's the entry point of being a solo entrepreneur. So they're things that they're permission to play in the business world. Then you've got your accidental values. These are the things that happen when you sort of don't expect them, the habits that are formed. If you think about an office, it could be people standing around the water cooler gossiping, or the Friday afternoon beers turning into men playing foosball and women gossiping in the corner, and the teams being siloed. That siloing effect, that behaviour, is an accidental value, and we want to be careful of those. Then you've got your aspirational values, and these are things that you want to get better at. So I'm trying to when the Queen died, I did a whole thing about servant leadership because she was an incredible servant leader, and I'm trying to improve my servant leadership at the moment because I think that's a really interesting way of leading your community, your society, your followers, the people that find you interesting. So I aspire to be a bit more like the Queen, and I'm working on those things as a value. And then you've got your core values. These are the things that make you completely unique. So say Lisa and I had 3 of the same values, the balance of those values or the way we behaved within those values would be different. So even that would be unique. So my values are adding value, i.e. I need to help. I need to, even if it's just making somebody smile in a day, even if it's giving somebody some education, even if it's just making somebody question something, I want to add value to every conversation I ever have. The second is adding inspiring action. So I am absolutely, somebody said practically, I think, somebody said, I just want some practical, I think it was Louise, I want some practical hints and tips. I can't be more about that. That's absolutely, take some action. It's the one thing you have to do. So every time I do anything, at the end of every call, at the end of every meeting, it's right, what are your actions? What are we doing next? How are we following up? How are we going to be accountable for that? So that's another value of mine. And then finally, it's about driving success forward. So that accountability piece and that making sure people stay on track is something that my husband says I'm like a shark. I never stand still. I never stay still. I'm constantly swimming. That's not the wrong kind of business shark, by the way. He just thinks that I just don't stop. I never stop. So yeah, I'm always moving, always doing something, always moving us forward. So what you're doing with all that information around knowing yourself is really trying to get to the bottom of your values and your behaviors, and adding these things all together give you a picture of who you are. So when I say about energy and the fact that it's all about injecting energy into businesses, I genuinely am very excitable. I'm very energetic. I go into businesses and that's what I do constantly. So I want them to feel that energy, feel that motivation, and do something about it. So my values and my personality are quite aligned, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, so you've spent a bit of time knowing yourself, and there's lots of questions you can ask yourself, and I'm happy to share some of those if you're interested. The next thing is then looking at the business, okay? And Mel's sort of done this bit for me in our introduction, which is you have to look at the business from a customer point of view. Okay, so if you have got business plans, then the business model canvas will help with this. If you've got that template, it's completely free to get online. Cheryl, I'm sure you've used it in some of your workshops and things. Business model canvas. It's got a whole section to the right-hand side about channels to clients, customer segment profiles, and how you're going to speak to them, you know, and what kind of relationship you want with them. So we have to understand our business from a customer point of view. So I would do a customer value proposition model. Have you seen that? So it's basically saying to yourself, it's again free, you can get it online for free. So you can say to yourself, okay, what's my customer's greatest fears? What do they, so Louise, you're talking about treatments, you know, what are the treatment outputs providing? So what's their greatest fear? And it could be they might not walk again, or they might not be able to play in the garden with the children, or, you know, etc., etc. Last will and testament, Lynn, that they might not be able to be able to provide for their family in the future. God forbid anything happens to them. So what's the fear? What is the problem they're trying to resolve? And try and word that just for yourself in a why are they frightened? What are they scared of? And then you've got what are their pains and what are they going to gain? So I'm frightened of this. This is the job I'm trying to achieve. This is what the pain point is, and this is what I'm trying to gain. And that's looking at that from a client point of view. Then you match that to your business offering. Remember, I've gone that way though. We go customer first, then we think about our business. So in terms of our fears and the problem they're trying to solve, how does your business solve that problem? How do you uniquely solve that problem? There's plenty of people that want to, I don't know why my hands went up then, that's computer learning, the AI is watching us. How do individuals, how do my individual characteristics and values and style and knowledge and expertise solve that problem specifically? And then the pains need to be answered by the features of your service, and the gains are the benefits. So you match it across. So fears, this is what my service is. the pains I've got, these are the features that answer that pain, and the benefits or the gains I'm going to get, these are the benefits that I give the client. So you match those things together. And the reason for doing it from a client point of view is you really do need to be quite careful about the language you're using. So that's the first thing I would do, value proposition. You might need to develop a customer persona. People heard of that phrase? So a customer persona is a client dummy. It's basically, imagine having a mannequin in the shop. This is my customer persona. They're this kind of age, they have this kind of background, this kind of money. We used to do quite a lot of demographic information about our customer. We're trying to build a picture of the perfect customer, or the customer you want to work with. Okay. These days, we've got a bit more sophisticated with that, and we're trying to say, okay, what's our customer persona in terms of their fears, their goals, their aspirations? How do they view the world? What's important to them? What brands do they like? What issues that are happening in the world are they concerned about? For example, climate change, or the influence of social media on young people, etc., etc. So we're trying to build that picture up of the customer, and we match that with our value proposition. I then finally think about what questions the customer's going to ask themselves about the business I'm working on. And so I don't know if you've heard of I call it the purchasing psychology, but there's a funnel that clients go through when they buy anything. And you do this whenever you buy anything substantial, not talking about a cup of coffee or a slice of sandwich or a slice of cake for a cup of tea. I'm talking about a car or a laptop or a bike or a house or whatever. You go through this psychology of purchasing, as I call it. The first thing is you'll have an awareness that something's not quite right with what you've got at the moment. So your laptop starts running a bit slow, or your washing machine starts making a noise. Okay. Then something will happen. And that's what we call the purchase intent trigger. And so the washing machine will stop working, or as I did with my laptop, I dropped it on the floor out of the pannies of my bicycle, and so I smashed all the screen. So something happened that made me have to go and buy. Then the next stage is you start to research and become familiar with the scoping of the product, and then you compare who can give you that scope, and then you purchase. The reason I'm telling you that, so awareness, purchase trigger, research and familiarization, consideration and comparison, and then purchase. The reason I'm telling you that is during the whole of that process, your customers are asking themselves questions. And in terms of your brand, in terms of your business, you should be able to match your answer with their question. And if you do that all the way down that funnel, you will be successful at the end in terms of them choosing you to be the person that choose to buy from. Now, the questions that they're asking themselves help you with your branding, because if you know the questions they're asking themselves, you can then provide them with the answers. And it's about aligning them to your business. So this is the question you've got. This is how we answer. This is the question. And each time you bring them closer and closer and closer to yourself. So by understanding the customer from that value proposition piece, i.e. what they're frightened of, what do they need, what do they want to gain, understanding who they are, the persona, the demographic, understanding what makes them unique and how they want to work with you, what their values are, what their brands are, what they're fighting for, what they're interested in. And then understanding the questions they're asking themselves when they're thinking of solutions that you provide. All this will help you with the right imagery, the right tone, the right logo, and the right positioning in the right place. That's what branding is. Come on to that second. That will help you all develop that kind of way of speaking. So if you can align yourself with your values, and they then align to the business, and the business is aligned with what the clients want, that's when you can start working on branding. And so let me just check. I didn't want to say anything else about business. Just one other thing is your plans to develop. So it might be that actually you've got quite a long-term, we mentioned business plans, quite a long-term business plan. You can actually develop your values and your behaviors as you develop the roadmap of the business. So it might be to start with, you keep your message simple, i.e. we solve one problem with one answer, and this is our product. But you know, in the back of your mind, you might have 4 or 5 or 6 things you want to sell that client. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it really simple. Keep it to one thing that you're speaking to your clients about, and solve that one problem, do that really well, and then offer something else, and then offer something else, and then offer something else. So all the way to branding. And let's talk about branding. So as I said before, for me, branding is not the logo of your company. Branding is you and your company. The way you behave, the way you are, the way you speak, the way you turn up, the way you your standards are, the way you speak to clients. Everything you do is part of branding. Customer UX, as Mel would say, part of branding, because that is how your client sees you, and branding is how people see you. So they often say, I think it's Maya Angelou said, people won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you've done, but they will remember how you made them feel. And so branding is that piece. Branding should help you put across how you feel to your customers, and that goes through your processes. So if you've got a brand that's full of energy, so let's take my brand, full of energy. If I came and went, morning, how you all doing? You all right? My name's Nicola Rylett Jones, and I'm a motivated, energetic individual that helps businesses. I can't even do it. I can't do it to myself. But if I was really, really down pat and really like, yeah, the world, no, that's the real problem in it. I can't be bothered with that. If I was really negative and not very motivated and not very up and energetic, my brand would be, a clashing with my personality. And people would think that there's something wrong with that. It's inauthentic, isn't it? People can spot when people are inauthentic. So what we want to do is have everything, the things that we've just gone through in terms of the business and ourselves, all aligned in every activity. So your brand is about how you put your processes through your company. Your brand is how you greet your clients, how you treat your clients, how you speak to your clients. Your brand is the imagery you put out there. It's where you spend your time. It's protecting your reputation, because you've developed a reputation that's all about excellence and service and doing a brilliant job. Those things are what your brand are. So I'll come on to logos in a minute, but I would spend most of your time knowing yourself, knowing your business, knowing your customers. And then I'd gather all those thoughts into a bit of a melting pot. And there'll be something on that page that will inspire you to go down a road, and that'll be where you'll get your imagery and your wording and your branding. In terms of logos, this might play to Mel's point about promoting herself. In terms of logos, I was on the NatWest Accelerator Hub when I first set up my company about 6 years ago. And we were having some pitching days, and they said, we need business cards. I said, oh, I'm doing the electronic thing. I'm not doing business cards, because I hadn't worked out what I was going to call my business, hadn't worked out what I was going to actually say the business was all about. And I thought, if I put pen to paper and it's wrong, it'd be an issue. So I decided that I was going to not have cards. And the guy said, look, we're going pitching on Tuesday. If you don't have a business card by Thursday, ready for the pitch on Tuesday, we're gonna hoof you off the course. We're gonna hoof you off the program. I was like, well, better get a business card. So I did a little. Obviously the initials are what are important. So I did a square with my initials in, and I put a picture of myself on the back of it. The picture you can see behind Cheryl's head there was on the back of the business card. And I thought, well, if all else fails, I can use them for my friends and family, because it's just got my phone number on it and my email address on it. It'll be fine. And actually, I'm telling you this from the point of view that actually that business card has stuck, and actually I am my business and people want to have my energy, and that's fine. But it takes more than that really to think about your business, and I wouldn't recommend that as a way to start with your branding and your logo. You need to come from the essence of what your organisation is. I noticed there was a question come up, Cheryl. Have you got it there, or do you want me to read it? I think it was Louise. Did Louise ask a question? Let me see if I can get it.
Steffi asked something of Louise.
Sorry, no problem, that's fine. Yeah, okay, fine. Would you, okay, let me go back to where I was then. Okay, so yes, logos. So how you develop a logo, there'll be something in that exercise of knowing yourself and knowing the business, as I said, that will start you down a track of thinking that's important, and it'll resonate with your clients. It'll resonate with yourself. There'll be something that just feels right. I would then at that point start testing it and asking people, not your friends and family, that they'll say yes to everything for you because they love you. And it's really important that they support you, and they probably want to be really positive for you. But I'd go and ask other people that you trust to be critical friends. Maybe Charles will be one of them, or people in this group, or people that you actually work with as customers, and see what they think, or people that challenge you. Maybe you've got a mentor, maybe you've got a coach, and I'd find out what they think about it and whether you can articulate it with them. And once you've done that, there'll be one that sticks, and then from there I'll develop that into your brand. But remembering it's not just about the logo, it's about the imagery you use, it's about the tone of voice, it's about the language you use, etc., etc. I think I'm repeating myself slightly, so I'll pause for questions.
Okay, I'd like to add something in, because as you were speaking, it brought to mind when I first launched I Am Woman, and I knew the colour was going to be black. That was going to be the background of it was going to be black, because black as a colour includes all colours, and that was really important for me of how we dealt with diversity. And red, because red is a colour of power, and what with it being called I Am Woman, yeah, I felt I needed the black and the red, because red was the power. But it was amazing how much criticism I had in the wider business audience for choosing black and for choosing the colour red. And women in particular were really anti the red, because they said, you're trying to say women in business are pushy. But I'd got to the stage as well where I really didn't care what people liked, because I knew my psychology of why I chose black and why I chose red. And for me, I'm all about shoes. I love shoes. So my brand personality has got to include shoes. From as old as I can remember, I've always been into shoes. So when I launched I Am Woman, I wanted the launch to be about shoes. And people talking to me were obviously looking at me and say, she's off a rocker, you know, wanting the launch of I Am Woman to be about shoes. But we had a 6-foot shoe made, filled with 2,000 cupcakes. That got everywhere on social media, as you can imagine. And also people were encouraged to walk in other people's shoes, to wear the shoes to the launch that most defined the kind of person they were. And even our speakers had to walk the whole length of City Hall to the music about shoes. And some women, I can remember Wendy Hopkins-Jones wearing these thigh boots, you know, and came down, you know, and he was playing These Boots Are Made for Walking. And I would say, because I stayed within the parameters of I love shoes, I'm all about shoes, it added that sort of like brand personality to the launch as well, because people were really excited to share their story about the shoes and had other stories about things that connected with shoes. And it's only now, after speaking to you, me realizing how strong I was standing in those brand values to say, shoes have got to be involved. And even down to whenever I go to the doctor's surgery or the dentist, when they say, do you have any allergies? I say, bad footwear. And they look at me like as though, you know, I'm a bit of a crazy loon. But it's almost like joining up the dots to say, you know, I can see now why I did the whole shoe thing. So
well, and just, well, that's a really good point around the alignment of yourself and the business to give the business an edge. And if you do that, as you said, it started to compound its interest. It started growing and growing and growing. And the stories then told other stories, got you more. So sticking with you, what was important to you, you linked it to the business aspect because it linked nicely, but you stuck within your values. And because of that, then all your actions compounded to make that better. And so if you are authentic enough and you're vulnerable enough and brave enough to stick with your authentic why and your purpose and your values, then that will come back so much more in the long term. I've spotted that in the last 12 months. I've changed tact with the business. I've never advertised. All my business has come through reputation, and we've grown year on year, and we're very, very pleased and very lucky. I feel very honored to be doing the work I'm doing. But I changed tack last year to move away from chasing the next client to the next client to the next client to actually doing the job I always did a good job, but to actually doing the job because I love the job and I want to do the job and I want to make it the best I can be and not worry about what that entailed. You know, if I might have said to a client it's 10 days worth of support and I've given them 12, and before last year I would have worried about who was going to 12 days. I'm just going to do it, because I know then that will all come back in investment. All that work I do in terms of doing the right thing for the client, adding the value, pushing them for success, driving them forward, making them take actions, that takes me another 2 days, so be it, because actually the client will be better off and then I'll be better off at the end of it because I know I've done the best job I can do. So it is really focusing on that original sort of know yourself, be authentic, and that will come through in your business no end.
And I think it's
So
about,
I thought,
as you say, you know, giving yourself permission to play. You know, if you're energized and you're enjoying it, your clients are going to enjoy it.
well, do you know the 6 elements of motivation, Cheryl? I don't know if this is a bit of a side, but this might help you all with your clients as well, by the way. 6 elements to motivation, 3 that are positive and 3 that are negative, okay? If you increase the positive ones, your motivation will go up. And they're the 3 Ps: play, potential, and purpose, okay? This is from a book called, hold on, I'm going to stand up. You see my tiger skirt there. So this is from a book called Prime to Perform. I run a business book club, by the way. It's completely free to attend. If you're interested in book clubs and you like book clubs with wine and crisps, we have wine and crisps. We meet online every 6 weeks and we read a business book. This one's about this month is about legacy, which is the All Blacks World Cup winning team and what they can tell us about business. Really quick book, really good. Anyway, this total motivation is from Prime to Perform. So 3 areas that increase. If you increase them, they will increase your motivation. So the biggest one of those, Cheryl, you couldn't be more right, play. The more we play, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we experiment. This is about self-actualization in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The more we do that, the more motivated we are. Okay, it's the #1 motivator for anybody, your teams, your clients, anybody. The more you can get them to play, experiment, grow and learn, the better they'll be. Second is purpose. So it might be you're aligned to my purpose. So if you're aligned to a brand's purpose, maybe sustainability, climate change, helping young people, whatever it might be, the more you'll want to work with them. The more motivated you will be to see them successful, because it's driving your purpose as well as their purpose, right? And then finally, potential. So this is maybe where you've got a young legal secretary, for example, in Lynn's case, who wants to be a barrister. They'll come and work and be motivated to work in an organisation if you're giving them the chance to meet their potential, if you're helping them meet their potential. So those 3 things, you will increase your motivation if you increase them. The 3 things on the opposite side of the balancing balance are inertia, economic factors, and emotional factors. So I call them the 3 E's. I know inertia's got an I, but I call them 3 E's. So economic pressure. If you make decisions on your business, on your life with economic pressure, you are often more likely to be demotivated as a consequence. Okay, you're making the decisions for the wrong reasons, in effect. And if that happens for a long time, if you're literally just working somebody to pay the mortgage for a long time, your value and your motivation for that job will decrease over time. Emotional support and emotional pressure. This is where, for example, your mum rings you up on a weekend and says, Granny, I'd like to see you on Saturday, and you've got a day planned out going shoe shopping with the girls, Cheryl. Well, actually, you probably think to yourself, well, no, I've got to go and see Granny. And you'll go, but you won't be motivated to go because you really wanted to do something else. But your mum's got the better of you and you know you want to support your mum, so you go ahead, right? And then inertia, this is where you feel like you're not getting anywhere. You do the same things day in, day out, and you're not progressing. So if you think about going to the gym, or if you think about being on a diet or healthy eating, then actually the more that you do this stuff and the less you progress, the more demotivated you'll get. I went to the gym from the 26th of December to the 26th of April every single day and burnt 600 calories on this thing. I did high intensity training with a personal trainer. And then the 4 months I put on a stone in weight and went up 2 dress sizes. And yet I was at the gym every single day. I literally was losing the plot. I went to the doctors for blood tests. You know, I was like, how can this be? I'm really motivated. I go every day, calories, and I'm still putting weight on. This can't be right. well, it wasn't right, and it wasn't medical either. I was just eating the wrong things, and I wasn't, you know, it wasn't helping me. Going to the gym was making me more hungry, so I was eating more things, and it was causing a spiral. But that lack of progress, that inertia, really is a demotivator. So if you can increase the P's, and if you can take away the demands of the E's, then your motivation will increase. Sorry, slight aside there, but I thought it was interesting.
And could you tell us where to start? Because a lot of people are thinking, okay, where can I start doing all this?
Well, I'd always start by asking yourself the questions about yourself. I mean, self-reflection and growth is you know, being open-minded is a real sign of conscious leadership. So you're probably aware of conscious leadership, or if you're not, I'll just explain. One of the main principles of conscious leadership is above the line thinking and below the line thinking. So if you're above the line thinking, you're open-minded, you're into growth, you're curious, you want to learn, you know, you're in a place where you're happy to move things forward. If you're in below the line thinking, you're probably a victim, you're being defensive, you've got to prove yourself right, you might feel threatened. So if you're coming from that perspective, it isn't good, you're not going to get anywhere. So the first thing to do is to make sure you're above the line in terms of your thinking. Are you open-minded? Are you curious? And then start asking yourself those questions around your values, why you do what you do, what your experience has led you to believe in terms of your purpose and your passion, and what experience you've got that you could bring to the world that will make a difference to the world. That's where I would start. If you want some questions, just email me. I've got a load of reflective bits I can send to people. That's fine. But yeah, I would start by asking yourself those sort of questions around your awareness, yourself. You know, are you as positive as you should be? Are you as open-minded and curious as you should be? When was the last time you did anything to do with growing yourself and to move yourself forward in terms of your thinking around your own expertise and developing your own skills? And then from there, move that then into the business and do the business model canvas, customer value proposition, customer personas, look at the questions the client's asking themselves. And by the time you got to that point, you should be getting some language and some words that start to help develop your brand.
Lovely, thank you. Wow, such a lineup there. So I think it'd be really good as part of our I Am Woman Hour for us to look back at this business model canvas. We covered it sort of yonks ago, so it'd be really good for us to cover that off again. So it'd be really good for us to for you to have some feedback. You know, what have people learned? How are they going to start putting that into action? Or they might have a last question. So Mel, you've come up first in the lineup here. So what have you got out of this morning's session, and how are you going to put it to work?
Lucky me coming first, eh?
Be gentle, be gentle. Actually, no, good, be good. Be yourself. Do your normal stuff. Do your normal stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's not so much about what I've learned, but really to reinforce some of the stuff you've said in that, you know, that whole customer persona piece. I know it's an old adage, but if you don't know who your customer is, then how can you begin to even service them in a way that's needed? And I think for me personally, it is very much about that constant self-development. You know, I had a great year last year in the business, and as a result of that, I stopped networking. I started focusing more and more on my clients, doing the do, which is important. However, you then get to a new year and go, okay, what does 2023 bring? Where do I need to be? And I realized my behaviors had changed in that I was working in the business rather than on the business. And from my own personal brand point of view, it is very much about, you know, who am I? What do I do? And it's not about the box ticking, because what I've realized over the last 6 years is that where I'm at my happiest is when I'm in a client's business, absolutely embedded in it, not just ticking a box or doing a bit of mystery shopping or whatever, but actually being embedded in a business where I can help and support and add a lot of soft skills that really I don't market and I don't talk about. So I think from what you've said this morning, it just sort of reinforces some of that stuff, some of that self-reflection that I've been going through this last couple of months. So it's been really useful.
And that's really great from that point of view of self-branding, isn't it, Mel? You know, in terms of that's what you want to focus on. So if they're the areas that you think that A, you've got the expertise, and then B, your clients really will get value from them, that there's nothing wrong with doing, well, you know, yes, this is insight, you know, instant insight, but actually this is me and this is the extra value I bring. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can build a brand and everything that goes with it, but in the end, you've got to live that brand, haven't you? You've got to be the brand. And if you don't enjoy doing that bit, then you're in the wrong business potentially. So, but it's been a journey, 6 years, and it's taken me a while to work out who I am and what I want and what I do. So yeah, thank you. It's a very good session.
Lovely. Thank you, Mel. And I'm going to come to our website, Wonder Woman. So over to you, Lisa. What have you learned? What you're going to put into action?
I think that was really, really interesting, Nick. I really enjoyed that. And I think that when you said about those words, and I wrote loads of notes, but I think for me, a lot of my focus over the last year has been like the economic pressure type thing. I feel like I'm just working to pay bills. So I think for me, it's going back to why I'm doing this and all that sort of stuff. Because I feel like that's all I'm doing lately. So that's a good realization to have. But yeah, thank you. Really good.
Thank you. And we're going to come to you, Steffi. What have you got out of this morning's session? How are you going to put it to work?
I actually have a question to Nicola, because I don't know if you can see behind me, I do the photography for brands. So I support brand building by portraying the persona of the business, mainly entrepreneurs. And I had a nose at your profile on LinkedIn. I can't see a picture. Is there a reason that you just haven't?
Well, do you know what? That's really interesting. Thank you, Steffi. No, my picture is there. And I actually had it last week. Somebody else said to me, I was doing a LinkedIn live audio because we do them now once a month. And somebody else asked me and said, why, you're being authentic and yet you haven't got your picture up there. Why can't we see you? I said, my picture's there. So I will take that away and I'll make sure that one of my girls goes and asks LinkedIn why my picture's not showing up for people. Because the picture actually is the one that's behind Cheryl's head that's on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was wondering that because that's such a vibrant picture that would be like, oh, no.
Thank you for the feedback. As I say, we go in and check and it's there. Internally we go in. Mel, have you seen it? Is it there?
Yeah, this is something that's cropped up more and more recently. There's something LinkedIn has done. I was talking to a client last week about this very thing because I'm like, where's your picture gone? Why aren't you on LinkedIn? And they're like, look, it is there. And they logged in and it was there. So there's something within the securities that LinkedIn has changed recently, and it's affecting the visibility of some of our images, and it's probably affecting us all, but we don't know because people are not telling us.
Yeah.
No.
So there is.
I was just wondering if there's a strategic point behind that you don't have one,
No, not at all. I want one and I have it and I use it a lot. And I need to get some more done, so actually send me a message. So yeah, I'm happy to do more of that stuff. I couldn't agree more that, actually you could probably add value to your clients now by saying, look, I can take your headshot, I can take your portrait, but what I want to do is I want to get those purposes, I want to get that values, I want to get that energy out of the picture for you. So I think that's great. But no, there's no strategy. That is an issue and I will pick it up. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Lovely. I'm going to come to Lynn now, our last will and testimony lady, and then I'll go to Bano because perhaps Bano needs to prepare. She's running late for a meeting, so we won't go to Bano. So we go to Lynn and then we'll come to Louise. So over to you, Lynn. What have you got out of the session? How are you going to put it to work?
I thought it was really interesting, especially following on from our one-to-one. I think it was last Thursday when we were talking about the business and the clients and the fact that, the brand for my particular business is actually me and is getting that client right then. Because, the reasoning, going back to what Nicola said of why, my why is because I wanted that personal experience with that client. I didn't want to be the person in the suit sat behind the door that was never ever seen. So I think working more on my why and getting that relayed to the client is going to be important in the next couple of weeks. And it really did tie into what we were chatting about last Thursday with the brand.
And it just goes to prove as well that nobody else can write your social media like you can. because
Yeah.
you're talking about things that are important to you, that you know that are important to the client. But if someone
Exactly.
else is doing your social media, do they get that? You know, do they get
Mm.
you? Do they get your clients?
Yeah,
Well,
because they don't get the questions that the clients are asking. Only I get those. You know, I know what's popular, what people constantly ask of why I need a will or why do I need a power of attorney, but it's not something that my social media person would know.
You can, Cheryl, couldn't agree more. You can actually have somebody. I mean, my social media now, I don't do a lot of mine. I do have somebody that does it for me, but that's taken 4 years. It keeps doing it. The computer is watching. It's taken 4 years for that individual to learn my tone of voice and to learn how I'd respond, and still we don't get it right every time. So I absolutely agree. At the beginning, unless you've got all this stuff worked out, and then you spend a good couple of years, you know, coaching, training, mentoring that person, it won't be as good as doing it yourself.
Mm.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
over to you, Louise, for the last word as far as feedback. So what have you got out of the session and what are you going to be doing? I think you can have a long list of things to do because I can see you've been really busy writing lots of notes.
Thank you, Nicola. I've written my dissertation since we've been online. I always take copious amounts of notes, but I found that really lovely actually for me, because what I've been doing at the moment, because I am in the middle of rebranding, and I'd forgotten really that actually it's what I've taken from it is how I make my patients feel is where the message really lies. Because they'll always tell me, oh, I feel amazing, thank you for giving my health back, you know, my marriage is better, my work is better. And I never tend to put that in my writing. It tends to be, I do this, I do that, and it's so dull and boring. So it's made me realise that the message comes from the customer, not from me. And even that change of reference point is really useful. But I've taken loads from that, so thank you so much. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much.
It's not about us, is it? You know,
No.
we might be doing the work, but
No.
it's not about us. It's about the outputs we give our clients. It's the outputs that we give our colleagues, our clients, our customers. So yeah, we shouldn't ever write a website from an I point of view. It's always should be, it gives you this, it gives you that, it gives you this, it gives you that, whatever that, you know, whatever those things might be.
Brilliant. But I think it'll just keep landing, because I'll look back at my notes now and realise what else I've written. Thank you.
Brilliant.
So thank you so much, Nicola. I feel as though I need to watch the video recording again, at least 2 or 3 times, to keep going back to the notes of the 4 of this and the 3 of that, and this links with this. I feel as though, you know, wow, that was packed full of information. Thank you so much. Really, really do appreciate the input this morning. So in the last sort of couple of minutes, can you perhaps share with us where you're going in the future? You know, what is happening in your world?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, the business is still growing. As I said, I run a business book club. So if you're interested in personal growth and development, then please send me a message. It's called Inspirante, which is obviously Latin inspiration. And it's all about working with like-minded people, talking about books and how we can apply them to our business. So we don't just read the book, but we then have a meeting. We talk about how does that then fit with the business. Again, free to attend. So just come along if you want to do that. The week of lockdown 2020, I bought a shack in France, and I mean a shack. It literally is a wooden thing that's falling down. And so we're currently doing those up in terms of doing business retreats in France. So we're going to have some gîtes, and we're going to do coaching and business retreats in France, probably from next year, or maybe autumn this year, but I might just do those as tests. So that we're moving the business from that whole sort of, yeah, we'll still have our clients that we work with day in, day out that we spend time with, but then we're going to spend sort of making it into more of, you know, injecting energy into people once a year that just need to, you know, have that time to reflect or have that time to replan or want to change or want to move their business in a certain direction. So we're going to work on that. And we've then got a whole series of products around conscious leadership coming out. So I'm working internationally with a lady called Sarah Akisi, and she's from Germany. And so we're doing a load of workshops about conscious leadership. And finally, we've got a whole series of products, so books, an app, and podcast all around positivity. So we do a podcast, a weekly NRG newsletter, which you can sign up for if you go to the website. And we do a podcast, which is a 5-minute podcast every week, all about some aspect of business or leadership. So those are the things we're doing next, really.
And how do people get hold of you?
But if you look on LinkedIn, hopefully my picture will be there. But if you put Nicola Rylett Jones in LinkedIn, it'll be there. Or it's nicola@the I can send the details to Cheryl, but yeah, just have a look on the internet. If you put Nicola Rylett Jones in the internet, I do come up. There's only one of me.
And what was the one?
Thank God.
What was the one thing you couldn't tell us before 11 o'clock? You can tell us now.
Right, yeah. So I'm the Deputy Chair of the Institute of Leadership and Management and a trustee of the organisation. And at 11 o'clock today, we just announced that we've acquired a company called ABE. And ABE is an international educator for young people and young career individuals around business. And we have the organisation have a footprint around 200 and odd countries in the world. So basically, the Institute of Leadership and Management are really, we want to put great leadership everywhere on the planet. And so as part of our international development strategy, we've acquired ABE, which is a global educator.
Wonderful. So thank you so much again, Nicola. Have a great week ahead, everyone. We won't be meeting up next week because, of course, it's Easter. And I think the week after, we'll probably go back to this business model canvas. So we'll be working on the work that you've asked us to work on and moving our customer focus and our branding and our values forward that little bit more as well. So thank you, Nicola. Can we give Nicola a round of applause? Yeah.
Oh. Thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to meet you all.
And have a great Easter, everyone, and look forward to catching up with you online. Cheerio, everyone. Bye-bye.